Greetings, Internet, and welcome back for another episode of Putting Shells on Shelves. That's right, we're back talking about turtles once again, as we will be for the majority of this series, if it hasn't already been made clear by the title itself and that title card. One of my best pieces when it comes to thumbnails and such, which is part of the reason why I've been using it for like every single one of these videos. So without further delay, we're going to move right on into today's topic. So, y'all may be familiar with the little standard Ninja Turtles. You got your Leo, your Mikey, got your Donatello, and you got your Raphaels, and the standard like little 4-inch, I think, size. Well, at some point in time, some brilliant brain over at Playmates Toys decided, do you think, since children like playing with these little tiny ones, that they would love to play with these things if they were like 5 times as big? And then someone at the company was like, I guess, maybe. And so we came to the point where they produced the Ninja Turtle Giants. And just to kind of put it in better perspective, here's normal-sized Leonardo from 1988. And here's his giant cousin. It's like if standard Leo somehow wound up in Mario World and got one of those mushrooms to make him go like wham wham wham. And ta-da! Now, if I'm not mistaken, these guys are from 1989. And if you look right here on his posterior, you'll see that I'm correct. Stamped right there on his shell is in fact 1989 Playmates Toys, Mirage Studios, made in China. So they made, in the first wave of these, they only made the 4 brothers, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and of course, Raphael. And unfortunately, for this wave of figures, and for the subsequent waves of the giant figures, they never made a Master Splinter. Collectors would have to turn to a knockoff, which I believe is called Karate Fighters, Super Mutant Karate Fighters. I could be horribly wrong. Editing me put right here what that was actually called. I'm sure it was close, but collectors would have to turn to bootleg toys to get a big size Master Splinter, who even then only like just scaled with these toys. He wasn't like exact 1-to-1 scale with them. So, when it comes to the big turtles, they come with the standard array of what you would expect for these figures. You get the character with their main weapon, thankfully only with their main weapon. Could you imagine if they would have done the whole weapons rack and like stars and whatever those like curved hooked things are for the big figures? That would be such a waste of plastic. But, as I was saying before I interrupted myself, you get the figures with their standard main weapon. They come with a belt with their initial on it, and each one is customized to the figure, like how Donatello here has these chest straps that go up and around, and how Mikey, his is literally a belt that goes around his waist. Unfortunately, if y'all hadn't noticed, my set here is incomplete. And that's because, well, I get these as I find them, and, they're in various states of disarray and disrepair. Like, when I got all 4 of these individually, it was literally, I'm going to say it was literally at least a decade and a half between my first one and my last one. The first one I ever found at a thrift shop that my grandmother worked at was this Raphael right here. Now, when I first got him, he was in far worse shape, like if you see right there on his lower abdomen, his lower belly, those couple of marks right there, his entire shell was covered with those. They were like on his arms, they were on his beak, his nose, right there. He was just in rough shape. And using only rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip, I was able to get him back to this state. And he didn't even have any accessories. It took me until within the last couple of years to get an accessory for him. Because, well, I'll admit, I just couldn't find them. And also I had higher priorities in my collecting than, trying to track down accessories. I was just like, I want the toys. Forget the accessories. Give me the toys. So he was the first one of the Giants I found. And like I said, I did my best to clean him up back then and got him looking halfway decent. And then, I put him in the box with the rest of my growing collection. And then like I said, it took like a decade and a half almost. I then found the next two for the collection, along with a couple others that I'm going to be talking about later on down the road, because they're not part of this line, they're part of a later line of giant figures. But like I said, we'll get to them when we get to them. So we fast forward years later, and in my town, a new toy shop opened up. They're a little store called Your Toy Connection. And they wound up having like this big, and I mean huge, selection of Ninja Turtles that they were having trouble sorting out because there was just so many of them. And because yours truly, I don't want to say I'm an expert, but I have a wide knowledge of the figures and accessories and what goes with whom and stuff, and I know of resources to figure that out. I became kind of buddy-buddy with the guy who owns the shop. I was actually there the day they opened up, I believe. It was either the day or the weekend they opened, and they helped me out so greatly getting a bunch of pieces for my collection. This was pre-COVID, so they still had those big dig bins of action figures, and I got to dig through those, and I found a bunch of pieces I was missing, and I got accessories for the figures I currently had, and I was able to upgrade a couple of figures and traded out a bunch of stuff that I had, my randoms, extras, etc. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. So it was thanks to that, my friendship with that guy, the relationship I built up between the consumer and the seller, that I was able to help them, for one, with their big turtle problem, and for another, they were able to help me with my turtle problem. As in, I still needed more turtles, and well, there just weren't any local toy shops until this guy came along. And yeah, so they were able to help me get more turtles. Like, they had a big tub upstairs in the shop that they actually allowed me to go through on several occasions. And on one such occasion, one of the guys who worked there was like, "Hey, you like the turtles, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I think I might have some things you'd be interested in there. Come on upstairs." So we went up to the top, and he had they had a bunch of these shelves set up with like extra stock and stuff that they couldn't put on the shelves downstairs in the shop. Just inventory, I guess you'd call it. And on one of those shelves stood 4 of these giant Ninja Turtle figures. The 2 I'm going to be talking about, and the other 2 that I believe you've seen, you might actually even kind of be able to see them right up here-ish. But they were all just standing there on the shelf, all beaten up, worse for wear, marks, dings, scratches, paint rubs, but they were there. And these 2 had all of their accessories. So the 2 I found that day were Michelangelo, who still has his nunchuck, which, now, to my knowledge, the Michelangelo only came with 1 set of nunchucks, but collectors like to go out of their way to buy an extra set of chucks, so he's more complete looking. But he came with the chucks, he came with his original belt, all his limbs were there, all the key factors for me were there. And of course, his brother Donatello was also with him. So I managed to pick up both of these guys at the same time, saved myself so much headache, heartache, and hassle getting them that way. Like I said, they were both really beat up. You can still kind of tell with Mikey, he's got some wear right there on his abdomen right above the belt. Hopefully y'all can see the mark right there. But they were really bad. And it took a Mr. Clean magic eraser or 2, and I was able to get them looking pretty good, if I do say so myself. I don't know why I put on an accent, but it felt right. But anyway, then I wound up managing to get these 2, and I was... Actually, initially, Mikey didn't have his accessory, He had his belt, though, but he didn't have his nunchucks, but I didn't care. He had the belt. He was with Donatello, who had his bow staff. I was just happy to, to see him there and have the opportunity to get them. And because they were beat up and they were so, worse for wear, I was able to get these guys for a bargain, along with their friends up there. So we fast forward to the next time I paid them a visit, and this was the time when I was helping them out by sorting figures, matching up accessories with what goes with whom and all that. And while I was going through their box of accessories, that's when I found the nunchucks just sitting in there. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the chucks as part of our usual deal. I would help them out by sorting through all the stuff, and they would allow me to dig through and take a couple action figures and some accessories as payment for my time, because they couldn't actually pay me to do what I was doing because I wasn't officially on the on the staff, on their payroll. So that was a nice little way of repaying me for my efforts. Unfortunately, like I was saying, this wasn't one of those days where, I had agreed to work and sort things out for them. I just happened to be helping them out a little bit that day and happened to find these mixed in with a bunch of random accessories and action figures. But I was... Sorry, my voice is really dry today for some reason. But I was still able to get these for a really good price, especially compared to what this stuff's going for these days. It's gotten stupid out there. But I was able to, quote-unquote, complete him. And I was, like I said, really happy about that. And, yeah, that was the story with these two. And I was so glad to add these to the collection because I had not seen one of these giant figures in person in years. The last one I had seen was my brother's Leonardo, but when he moved out, he took it with him, so, he didn't let me have it. It was special to him for reasons. So like I said, the last one I had seen other than the Raphael was the Leonardo. But I didn't have one yet, I just had the Raphael, so I was just like, eh. So when I got these two, I was excited. So then, we fast forward, I think it was a couple of weeks, or within the same week that I got those two, that I happened to go onto a certain online site, and I was doing my usual, perusing, looking up the different keywords, TMNT, Ninja Turtle, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all the different things that pull up different results because reasons. And on this site, they just so happened to have this bad boy for sale. Now, like the other ones, he was in pretty rough shape, and, well, even now he's still in kind of rough shape. I just realized he has a bit of paint wear, or they just didn't paint very well on his chest in this one spot. Trying to see it. It's got like a scrape right up here, almost has the same kind of texture as a cinder block. Trying to get his arm out of the light. Again, I don't know how well you'll see it, but it's like right here. It's got a bunch of... Looks like someone took a sponge and like dabbed the paint on there. If you get what I'm talking about. But anyway, I was able to get him for a deal just about as good as with those other two. And I was able to finally bring him home. And I had all 4 of the turtles. Well, they had to ship him to me, but still, he came home to roost with his brothers. Now, unfortunately, obviously, he and Raphael are missing accessories. He was supposed to come with a sword, which obviously is just not there, as well as a belt with his initial on the belly. Or the buckle, I should say. But, again, I was able to get him for a good deal, quite possibly because he was missing all those pieces. So, I'm not too fussed about that. I'm just happy to have him. And I'm still on the lookout for his accessories, but like I said before, finding the bits and pieces for all the different figures, and especially the Giants, is becoming one hell of a way to drain your bank account. Now, speaking of accessories, I didn't really speak about Raphael and his accessory too heavily, because there's a story behind that. So, when I initially found this Raphael, he had nothing. He didn't have his sai, he didn't have his belt, he was just, really beat up and whatever. But, like I said, fast forward years down the line, on the same site that I found that Leonardo, they happened to have a Raphael plush. What a plush is, a stuffed animal. And the plush that they had, I already had, but this one, for some reason, some little kid way back when took that sai right there, just slid it into the stitched-on belt that came with the figure, and I was able to get the sai with the plush for about what I would have had to spend for just the sai itself, with the prices, climbing. So it was thanks to a stuffed animal that my action figure now has one of his accessories. And I've had awesome luck with this same site, which you'll be learning about as we go through more figures in the waves that I have, especially when we're referring to a couple more of the giant figures that I have, stashed over here, just out of eyesight. Okay, there's not really much more to say, so all I will do is this. I will say thank you all so much for coming back and watching another one of my videos. I do truly and greatly appreciate it, and all of you. If you like what you've seen here today, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon to be notified of future uploads once you are subscribed. You'll be glad you did. And feel free to share my content with your friends, if you know that they'll like it, and if not, share it anyway. You could be surprised. And with all of that hullabaloo out of the way, this is your old buddy Oxleymations saying, Cowabunga, and I'll see y'all in the next episode. Later.